Ladies and gentlemen, a lot of people don't see this, but President Trump has just completely wrestled control of the wonderful intelligence community from Democrats. Pretty unbelievable. And it's happening in plain view. Trump taps Richard Grenell as acting intelligence head. So this is really interesting. President Trump announced Wednesday that he is recalling the U.S. ambassador to Germany, Richard Grenell, to name him the acting director of national intelligence, confirms the New York Times. I am pleased to announce that our highly respected ambassador to Germany, Richard Grenell, will become the acting director of national intelligence. Rick has represented our country exceedingly well, and I look forward to working with him. I would like to thank Joe Maguire. Now, Grenell, an outspoken Trump ally, will replace Joseph Maguire, who took over as acting DNI after Dan Coats, the former Republican senator from Indiana, resigned in August. Do you know who was the director of national intelligence under President Obama? The same person who presided over setting up and framing Trump, who presided over the Office of Director of National Intelligence report that literally said they're not certain, they're only confident. It was James Clapper. James Clapper. So President Trump has essentially replaced, it took him 3 years to replace James Clapper with somebody who is loyal to him, who isn't a career intelligence operative like Clapper. You can look and you go from James Clapper, and we'll just read you what James Clapper wrote. This is the disclaimer in the Office of Director of National Intelligence report that said that Russia possibly worked with Trump and Russia tried to interfere in the election, that Russia hacked the DNC. Here, quote, judgments. So they've never said with certainty that Russia hacked the DNC. They are relying on CrowdStrike's assessment, and they've confirmed the assessment based on a level of confidence. That's James Clapper, who was privy to all the information from Comey and Brennan. The Director of National Intelligence gets all the intelligence or information briefings from all the agencies. And this is what they came up with to set up and frame Trump. Quote, judgments are not intended to imply that we have proof that Trump shows something to be a fact. Assessments are based on collected information, which is often incomplete or fragmentary. High confidence generally indicates that judgments are based on high-quality information from multiple sources. High confidence in a judgment does not imply that the assessment is a fact or a certainty. Such judgments might be wrong. You go from a person who wrote that and then went on CNN, MSNBC just to disparage and undermine and go after Trump. You go from James Clapper to Richard Grenell. And by the way, I will be having almost certainly a live stream in about an hour or so. If I don't, I apologize, but I'm planning on it. Otherwise, you'll definitely have a live stream tomorrow in the early afternoon, morning. But Grenell, an outspoken Trump ally, will replace Joseph Maguire. Grenell will only be able to serve 3 months as acting director, but does not have to be confirmed by Senate for the temporary role, having already been confirmed as ambassador. It's unclear if Trump would move to nominate him for the official role, which would require another confirmation process. I think that he would, because that's why he's doing this in the first place. So this is a way for him to become the acting director of national intelligence. He serves as the acting director of national intelligence for 3 months. Democrats relax. Get used to Mr. Grenell as Director of National Intelligence. And the interesting thing is, they would look really bad and look like, major hypocrites if they didn't give this man a chance. But here, New York Times, Trump names Richard Grenell as acting head of intelligence. The move places a loyalist atop the intelligence agencies that the president has long battled. So even the New York Times knows what's going on. Washington. President Trump on Wednesday named Richard Grenell the ambassador to Germany, who quickly antagonized the establishment after arriving in Berlin in 2018, to be acting director of national intelligence overseeing the nation's 17 spy agencies. By choosing Mr. Grenell, who has little experience in intelligence or in running a large bureaucracy. I love this. The New York Times is going after him. The president signaled that he wants a trusted, aggressive leader atop an intelligence community that has long been viewed with suspicion and at times gone to war against. As ambassador, Mr. Grenell made public statements that German officials sometimes took as expressing opposition to the government there, an extraordinary intervention into domestic politics that diplomats typically avoid. Interestingly enough, Ukrainian diplomats wrote op-eds against Trump in 2016. This was when the DNC reached out to Ukraine. And then they said, well, you know, they were going after Trump's pro-Russian position. Well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the reasoning is. If it's an extraordinary intervention in domestic affairs, then any intervention is an extraordinary intervention into domestic affairs that diplomats typically avoid. He attacked what he called failed open borders in Germany, which is resettled, and criticized Berlin's stance, on Iran, military spending, and Chinese investment in global telephone networks. Okay. I absolutely want to empower other conservatives throughout Europe, other leaders, Mr. Grenell said. Well, intelligence directors have tried to serve as neutral arbiters of facts. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. They don't ever stop. Neutral arbiters of facts. Neutral arbiters of facts. John McCain and John Brennan helped spread the Steele dossier, knowing that it was purchased by Clinton. And then Clapper and Comey helped Brennan perpetuate the myth that Trump could have worked with Russia. They completely set him up. The New York Times is a wonderful, wonderful extension of the remnants of the intelligence community that Trump is already pretty much wrestled away from Democrats. But here, while intelligence directors have tried to serve as neutral arbiters of facts, oh my God, this is so nauseating. If it wasn't so nauseating, it would be absolutely hilarious. Mr. Grenell's experience as an ideological advocate prompted some former officials to express concern that he could color the intelligence he presents to Mr. Trump rather than present an objective assessment. Are you kidding me? They literally gave Trump the dossier to intimidate him. Where was the dossier against Clinton or President Obama or Biden? Where was that dossier? Oh, that's right. They would never utilize a bunch of gossip written on paper to set up and frame any Democrat. Hillary Clinton, her campaign, through money funneled through a law firm, purchased a dossier, a compilation of gossip and fantasy and nonsense and conjecture and hearsay and innuendo and just outright lies. None of the dossier was utilized to indict anyone because it was all nonsense. Yet that was the basis to get FISA applications, and you had the FBI deliberately falsify 17 statements within these applications to deceive FISA judges. Then they got the ball rolling against Carter Page. Then they set up and framed Michael Flynn. And then they got 30 process crimes indictments based on, oh, you forgot this date of an email? Okay, you're obstructing justice. And then you have judges who are completely the zeitgeist or the way Washington worked for the past 3 years is, oh my God, the Russians interfere. This is like Pearl Harbor. Only to them because they lost. Because they viewed Trump to be like this invading foreign enemy. The thing here is that Russian interference can't be quantified, and they can't even explain which swing states went to Trump because of Russian interference, because Clinton got the popular vote. So they're saying all different things at once. Russia interfered. Why? Russia interfered, but Hillary Clinton won the 2016 Democratic primary fair and square. She got more votes than Bernie. Well, then why was it Russian interference for the DNC emails to be published? Oh, that's right. The DNC emails showed that Bernie Sanders was cheated. But Clinton was... Clinton won fair and square. Then it's, well, the Russians interfered in our election. Why? Because they gave us dirt. They gave us an insight into how corrupt and how duplicitous and disingenuous the Democrats really are. Okay. But Clinton still got the popular vote. Well, how does that work? Okay. You have a whole bunch of nonsense. The whole thing's nonsense. Anyway, he's going to get... all of this now, so you have a new director of national intelligence. And the interesting thing is you have a person who, Richard Grenell, independent UK, 5 hours ago, Trump appoints first openly gay cabinet member to head U.S. intelligence. Democrats are going to look really bad. Really, really bad. Look like real hypocrites. Especially when the whole identity politics thing, they go after Mr. Grenell. They're going to just, do the usual. They're going to be hypocrites as usual. I think that after 3 months, he'll get confirmed completely. Because it's President Trump's administration. Well, wait a second. The Republicans control the Senate, so he will get confirmed. So that's not a problem. Not a problem at all. The Republicans control the Senate. Unless you have Mitt Romney for some reason causing havoc as usual. He'll get confirmed. He will have not only Richard Grenell, but he'll have basically everyone around him. The only issue would be the FBI director, who he nominated anyway, but who seems to be dragging his feet on everything. But the director of national intelligence is probably the most influential. James Clapper, John Brennan was the most devious. James Comey was the most deceitful. James Clapper was the worker bee that had, I guess, perhaps the most impact on helping synthesize this hoax and myth. You don't have Russia collusion nonsense without James Clapper, because he was privy. The director of national intelligence has to synthesize and summarize and acquire all the intelligence from all the different agencies, and then write a completely absurd report like they did with Trump Russia. So Trump just consolidated his control of the intelligence community with Richard Grenell. Because even if Christopher Wray doesn't like Trump, Richard Grenell is a Trump loyalist. He's privy to all the information of all the intelligence agencies, because he has to collect all of that data, all of that information, which a lot of it, whatever. But it all goes through the Director of National Intelligence. So he's the one who eventually runs the show. Give me your thoughts below. Trump scored a major, major victory. Give me your thoughts. Thank you so very much. Check out H.A. Goodman's other channel this second.